I mean, this is a big deal.
This is 2011.
You know, your 4 seconds is a lot. Add that up over time. That's a lot of
It
time.
tests your equanimity.
How much RAM does your mag have? The other thing about it is actually for a mat of its size, it's quite hefty because rubber is heavy. I kind of like that though, but yeah. The pros and cons.
The pros and cons, and this is a Gaia mat you got from Barnes & Noble, and it cost about
$35, $40, something like that. We'll double check that. I can't remember. I'm not good with money. But
so really quick, while we're on the cheaper mats, let's go with a barefoot yoga mat. So barefoot yoga at thebarefootyoga.com, and I used to get these on bulk for studio use or whatever. And these are pretty good quality mat you can get for around $22 to $25, and they have a lot of sales going on all the time.
They've got a lot of different colors.
Lots of colors,
important.
Purple. I mean, you name a color, they have it. But this is kind of my outdoorsy greeny mat, and it's part of the collection of these. But not a bad mat for about $20, $22. Thing with these, when you get a new mat like this, you're paying this kind of at this price point. You're not going to get the same thickness of rubber. It's going to be the same pattern front and back. So as you saw in some of the other mats, you're going to have a sticky surface for your hands and feet, but the opposite side might be a little more designed to stick to the wood of the floor or the linoleum of the floor. In this case, when you get around the $25 mats, you're going to get the same pattern on both sides. And that's going to mean a little bit of sliding around if you're not well-rounded.
If it's new, it'll do a little bit of that slide.
A little sliding.
Yeah.
So
but not too bad. I mean.
Well, this is one's been used and soaked and washed, but this is, you know, still a wonderful mat. You can have a good practice with it, and you can have a good experience with it. Just you're not going to have that same feeling. I mean, but one thing that's good about a mat like this is, if you're saying down dog and you're really grounding through all four corners of your hands and you really got your fingers spread, you're going to get that gravity spread from the mat through the floor, and you're going to stick.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I wish I could find the positive, right? Let's find the positive in our $25 mat. And that is, it's going to give you some feedback on whether or not, you know, the tiniest bit of feedback on whether or not you're really grounding through your hands and feet.
It makes you work how you're supposed to.
It's going to make you work, and your core may get a little extra work in the process.
Which is a good thing.
So barefoot.
You know, you were just talking a little while ago, you're like, yeah, we soaked in water, did and whatever. Can you just really quickly run us through the process of, if you have a mat like this, it's kind of like, you know, you've got to kind of prepare like a cast iron skillet or whatever. You sort of have to do the same thing. Season it. So go into like mat seasoning 101. What is that soap and water process?
Well, there's a couple ways.
Sweat on it first.
You can, well, some people like to sweat it at first, but if you're going to slide it around, that's one thing. I generally like to take some tea tree oil and water and really just wipe it all down really well. Just really wipe off, because a lot of these will come with some, there's a packing film on it. I know some of the Manduka mats and some of the other mats have a packing film on it. Or a lot of times it's just that finishing process that they put on the rubber before shipping it. You kind of scrape some of that off. And I don't mean scrape so much, take your towel and really rub into it and go over it. With the darker mats, like with a really dark black mat, you're going to see exactly where you wiped and where you didn't. With some of your happier colors, your purples and whatever, or this green one, it's a little harder to see that. So just, you know, really take some of that tea tree oil and water, mix it up well, really wipe it down well, let it dry, see where you missed, and wipe it again. And then just, you know, have a little practice with it and see if you're sliding around or if it's feeling right on. And I know there's some other people.
You can use apple cider vinegar.
Ooh.
A real mild detergent or acid.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
That's cool.
Right from the kitchen.
That's what Manduka's spray is, basically vinegar and
apple cider vinegar?
Yeah.
So you can use stuff in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's good. Well, anything that you can eat, you know, is also okay to inhale.
So olive oil would not be a good one.
Well, yeah, putting oil on it.
I got a lot of olive oil.
Might be a challenge.
That would make for a different kind of practice.
That's true. That's true. We don't want to grease it.
That's hot oil.
I'm sorry.
But you work with what you have.
Well, yeah, you know.
Okay, so the other thing I want to really quickly point out about this type of mat, this is like really bizarre thought, but like I know people who...
Let's go there.
Let's get bizarre.
Let's go.
So it's actually like the skinniest mat that we've had up here so far. It's quite thin. And what I've seen people do in like teaching yoga to special populations is, I actually had a workshop once on chair yoga.
Chair yoga.
And of course chairs, you know, if you're like in a chair, it can be kind of slippy slidey. If you're like in a wood chair or a folding chair, is like the normal prop we would use in a chair yoga class. So it's like you don't have the mat, but like with a mat like this, I've actually seen and heard of chair yoga instructors taking a nice sharp pair of scissors, and what they were doing for like this really sweet class that was mainly like 60 to 80-year-old women in chairs, was they were actually cutting several chair yoga mats out of a mat about the size. So they would cut like a little heart, you know, and like the heart is like, okay, you can sit, your butt's there, and it's like that's like a perfect, a heart cuts out.
So like they're cutting
like a,
Christmas cookies out of the mat.
Yeah.
And putting them on the chairs.
So like for a chair yoga class, you can get a bunch of mats like this and just like cut hearts out of it, and you've got mats for your chair yoga class.
Well, there you go.
But of course you couldn't do that with like a big, sturdy,
and
like,
if you had
how do you
older,
cut that thing?
well, if you had like older mats too, where part of it was kind of really well worn and the rest was okay, and you could recycle. That's a great way to recycle mats. What are some other ways to recycle old mats? Because we all have old mats, and what do we do with? What do you do
Well,
with
I've
old
seen
mats?
people like with this size again, just taking a pair of scissors, cutting strips of the mats, and like if you've got a couple in different colors, this can get really fun. And then you can just weave them, like a kid weaving paper. Remember, like doing the paper weavings? You can do that with mats and make like a doormat or whatever. That's
you can make a bunch of doormats out of this. Definitely.
Coffee mugs.
Coffee mugs. Or you know, like if your furniture, if your hardwood floor is like this, and you want to put something under your furniture so it won't kind of scrape, you could just cut little chunks out for that, rather than going to the store and buying something.
Exactly.
You know, reuse, recycle. So
I like it.
That's an approach. What else can we do with an old mat?
It would make a really ugly handbag.
Oh yes. Well, there you go.
Awesome.
You gonna come out with your line of those when next year? I'm sorry, everyone.
I'm
disclosing stuff I shouldn't. There's a whole line of these things going on. So.
The Laura. Like,
so.
Well, but the other thing, I guess, you know, okay. The challenge to our viewers is someone in fashion ever going to do one of those? Like we've seen models like on the runway with like the garbage bag dresses, right? It's like,
the yoga mat dress.
Who's going to do the yoga mat dress?
We challenge you, viewer. Make your yoga mat dress, and we want to see it.
And when you've done it, shoot a little video and send it to us.
And the more colors and the more types of mat, the better.
I'll buy it.
But even just one, Laura will buy it.
Awesome. I'll buy it. Yeah. I can't see this being used as a hat, really. I think mats, things.
You can kind of fold it and kind of a little sailor hat.
Yoga mat origami.
It might not be fashionable. It can be kind of goofy.
Could you make a big plane out of it?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. We can make a plane, fold a plane.
The thing is, it doesn't really fly.
This would have a hard time flying. So we're going to make this mat. I think we've talked enough about this one. It's just
but it's just, I mean, that's the cool thing with a simple mat. You can do so many things.
So what's our next mat? Sean, you have a huge mat collection.
I do. We have a jade. I also have a nice Lululemon mat. And I have
Should I just bring one over?
Yeah, let's get the jade.
Okay.
Let's bring them
all. The blue one right there.
This one?
Let's bring them all.
Right.
This one on the floor.
Send it over. Red Rover, Red Rover. Send a mat over.
So this is a jade. I think it's a thinner one.
And if you throw it, it won't unroll itself. You have to really.
It's really loud.
It's going to make you unroll it. This feels kind of cool.
This is kind of rubbery too.
Yeah, it's natural rubber, so there's
like
nothing synthetic about it. And but these mats will only last about 3 or 4 years. They start breaking down. It's really nice. It has a nice feel, but they do start breaking down, which means that they are biodegradable.
And that's what you want to see if you're buying a biodegradable mat.
It feels kind of slickery.
Yeah, it is kind of more slippery on the wood floor.
That's interesting.
Seems like when you're going forward, it sticks. When you're going sideways, it's a little slickery.
Yeah.
It has the consistency. You remember those little things you could buy, little round thing, and put on top of a bottle to like twist them off?
Oh yeah.
It feels
like a jar
one of those.
opener.
It feels like
so
like
when
a
you're
big
done with
jar
this,
opener.
3 years in, you can make
We
jar
can make jar
openers.
openers with this and recycle.
But that's a good recycling.
It feels like a thick jar opener.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Did my rubber mat move on the floor? It really didn't.
It seems to be a similar consistency.
It does, but mine didn't do that.
No, well, but going to see long ways, it sticks better.
This is a real popular mat, though.
You get a ground through your whole hand. Come on.
This is the mat that you'll see like in Yoga Journal magazine with like David Life and Sharon Gannon holding them. People are into these.
Sienna Sherman holding one up in San Francisco.
They're very like, you know, ecologically conscious, environmentally conscious mats, and that's Jade's big thing, which is awesome.
And they do make a thicker version of this.
Okay.
Got a little more.
But then you won't be able to recycle it.
So you can make a better jar. Well, you can make a really thick jar of
Like for like the big peanut butter jars.
Yes, peanut butter jars, very important.
So
Household solutions.
let's try the Lululemon one.
Yes.
Let's
that
get
sounds
Lululemon.
good. Okay. So how do you, the cool thing is, like, this is very often what happens with these mats. Again, if you're doing something interesting like meditating at the end of the mat, at the end of, or if you're like doing Iyengar inspired shoulder stands, you need like a grip there.
Yes.
These mats are very cool because they don't just roll and flop around on you like you can
That's true. It's almost like having an extra blanket.
Yeah, only like it's a grippy blanket.
A grippy blanket.
So like if you're doing the classic like shoulder stand, you know, thing, but you don't want your shoulders
Elevate the neck,
sliding.
save the neck. Oh yes,
Yeah.
that's a great use.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even have to recycle it and cut it up for that.
Right.
So it's almost like having an extra blanket.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, now this one won't make an airplane, but we'll make it
No.
by one.
Makes a good sound though.
So this, my understanding, is proprietary to Lululemon technology, and it is the stickiest mat I've ever experienced.
Ooh.
So it sticks to the wood floor very
Oh,
well,
does it ever?
Shiny.
and the
I wonder if we'll get it
more,
back up.
the more you sweat, the stickier it gets.
Awesome. So you
Wow.
season
So
your mat.
someone that is quite the perspirer, as I, really values this mat. So you don't slip
So this
around.
would be like a really good one to
So if
bring
you're
into
Bikram
like,
or any of the hot
Yeah,
yoga,
yeah.
Bikram,
hot yoga, this is your go-to
Yeah.
mat.
or if you just
But for, I mean, it really is phenomenal, because when you get just a little bit of moisture on your hand, it actually becomes stickier.
Wow. So this is probably only available in Lululemon
Black.
showrooms
In
Yes.
black,
and only available
online or in their stores.
In stores.
in
Yeah.
their stores.
There's a little logo.
There it is.
Yes.
But it really is a great mat.
And the
But
other
it does
thing-
also
just different.
soak up moisture. So if you do hot yoga, you'll walk out with this thing weighing at least a pound more.
Oh, so you have to like lay it out. You have to like hang it over the clothesline to let it kind of dry out
Your
afterwards.
weight training integrated into your practice.
Definitely.
It's kind of like
Again,
those shoes.
You can do curls with your mat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and it's really heavy. It's about as heavy as the Manduka. So for travel, Lululemon makes a very similar mat, but it's basically the top. It's the surface of
okay.
this.
So just a
Yeah.
thin
We'll show you
surface.
that one.
Let's roll
Oh,
this one.
cool. Okay. Oh, Sean, how much did this mat?
That I think was for $69.
So it's good in between medium expense.
And so you got a good shot of my knees there.
Yeah.
So this,
Check out
People want
Sean's
to see your
knees.
face.
that's right.
Look at those knees. Look at the bee's knees. Look at that. Oh wow.
So this is
This looks like shelf liner paper, like black shelf liner
It
paper.
does.
Doesn't it? Which is a great reuse.
Repurposing
We're
ads.
repurposing before we even talk about it. There we go. Okay. Sean,
So-
tell us about your mat.
this. Both of these mats I got at a Yoga General conference from Lululemon, and this one is, in my experience, perfect for conferences, especially ones that
Or on carpet.
on carpet,
Exactly.
because you don't get that thing where your mat pooches up.
Right. So many conferences is like that's what you've got. You've got carpeted floors. Also, of course, like if you're practicing yoga in your living room, or if you're going to any kind of a more informal space, you know, that you have a carpeted floor. A lot of the time, Sean, have you ever taken like, I used to take yoga in my gym, and they have like a dance floor, like a cushy carpeted dance
This is
floor
not bad.
with a little bit of spring to it.
Mm-hmm.
So like a thicker mat, it was just like wobbling all over the place.
Unwielding. Yeah.
Right, so this is great for, well, in conferences you'll be traveling, but also
And it
living rooms,
sticks.
gyms.
It sticks.
It's really
There's no like
sticky.
slippage. That is
There's no
awesome.
stick. Yeah.
I like that.
Wow.
And look, it wipes clean, but it makes great shelf liner. I'm